Hi guys, so today I come to you with my Fantastical February wrap up and a February book haul. So before I get onto the actual wrap up, I think I'll show you some of the books that I got during February, and actually some of them are a little bit from like a few months before, but I just haven't showed them in a book haul. I feel like I haven't done a book haul in ages, so I thought I'd just include those as well. And even though this is Fantastical February, just all the books that I bought or received are not just fantasy based, so yeah, just putting that out there. So I want to quickly mention this is 12 Years a Slave, a True Story by Solomon Northup. I have been wanting to read this for quite a while. My mum started reading it, but she couldn't finish it because it was too much for her. It's about this black man back in 1841 spanning to 1853, about his 12 years in captivity as a slave, being stopped from what he wants to do, obviously, because he's actually a successful violinist, which is really interesting because if you don't know, I play the violin as well as the piano, and I don't know, being black myself, it's going to be interesting seeing this history, and the fact that it's a true story will really resonate with me, I hope. So hopefully I can get through this. Yeah, that's that one. And then another kind of non-fantasy book, I guess, is The Light Between Oceans by M.L. Stedman. Some of you may have seen this in my TBR. Unfortunately I didn't get to read it in time, but I've still got this on my radar, obviously. This is about two people who live in quite like an isolated area. I believe they live in a lighthouse. One day they hear a baby crying and they discover a baby in a boat with a dead body, and they take it in, and I guess the story goes from there. But it sounds really interesting. Again, this has recently come out as a film, so I'll be interested in checking that out too, maybe seeing some comparisons and differences between the book and the film adaptation. So next up, I decided, well, I didn't decide to go to the hospital, I went with my family, and anyway, there's this cool hospital that does like this really like nice donation thing. They have a lot of different books and stuff that you can put however much money you want to, and then take how many books you want to. That day I saw this one called The Magical Garden by Sophia, with Denny Sargent, I guess, and it spells charms and folklore for magical gardens and the gardeners who tend them. I personally don't do a lot of gardening, but anything with the word magical and folklore and anything like that just really captivates me, and this is a really pretty cover as well, actually. So it's literally just a little handbook of when to best plant certain things, what you should do, what vegetables, flowers, whatever have certain magical attributes and stuff like that, so I'd be interested in checking that out fairly soon. Yeah, on to the next stuff. So when I see a series for really cheap, I don't just buy the one book, I buy all of them. And that's the case here. I saw these in Asda and I've been seeing them for a little while, just the odd one every so often. But they had these three, was it? Yeah, these three for £7 together, I think, or something like that, something ridiculous, and all three of them were there, so I got that. So these are the, I always want to say the name that's on the front, but that's not the name of the series. It's the Trial by Fire series by Josephine Angelini, and honestly these are really a cover buy. How bad is that? Like, I do have them on my TBR, I think, and I've been wanting to read them, but I don't really know too much about them. I think they're a witch series, I'm guessing by the things it says, but look, it makes a picture. I think that's really cute. So yeah, I think I'm going to go into this fairly blind. However, if you think there's something I need to know in terms of the summary or whatever, and you want to tell me, feel free to tell me, I guess, as long as it doesn't spoil anything. But yeah, so it's book one, which is, I don't know what the individual books are called. Oh, okay, so book one is called Trial by Fire. Book two, I think this is book two, is called Firewalker, and book three is called Witch's Pyre. So yeah, hopefully it's going to be a thing where I can just kind of binge read this series and see how I feel about it. And then another thing I've been wanting to read for a while, I'm a little bit annoyed because I saw it when it first released and it was in hardcover, and I think it had like a nice yellow background or something. I think it's like £4 or something, and I just didn't get it. And then the second book came out, and now I've seen the first book again and it's like paperback, but I still got it anyway because I just thought, yeah, I want to buy some books. And that is Troll Hunters by Guillermo del Toro, who does a lot of film stuff, like a lot of the monster films and scary films and stuff. And yeah, I've been wanting to see how his like books read, especially because I think it's like a middle grade series, duology, I'm not too sure. I think there's 2 books at the moment, and I think it's like yeah, a Netflix show now, so interested in that. Again, I don't really know exactly what this is about, but I remember when it was like first released, I read the back of it, and I think I might have looked up a few reviews and it sounded interesting, but right now I don't remember. So if you want to find out more about this, I'm sure you can read it up yourself. Just to finish the little haul portion of this video, I've been collecting these magazines. This is issue 1 at the moment. I also finished this, I might talk a bit about it in a bit, but this is Enhancing Your Mind, Body and Spirit by the publishers D'Agostini. Yeah, I've got about 7 of these now. I've subscribed to it, and yeah, I get a bulk every so often. They're basically like kind of like healing and chakras and stuff like that, and how to do massages. It's really cool. But yeah, I've got about 7 of these now. As I said, if you subscribe you get extra perks, like you get like an oil burner and stuff like that every so many issues, if that makes sense. I think it's like $3.99 each. It is a weekly subscription. One magazine is released every week, so it could get a bit expensive, so let's see how long I go with this for. And as this, I guess, ends the whole portion of the video, I'm just going to talk a little bit about this because it is now the wrap up, and I read this in February time. So I don't know why I'm not blitzing through these, because they are really easy to absorb, but I feel like I really want to take my time with these magazines and kind of just like really read it and understand it. And I find it amazing because you get like ring binders and stuff, so you can take apart these and put them in order and all that sort of stuff. And it's got sections on what dreams mean, herbal remedies to treat a cold, just stuff like that. It's really quite cool. How to use clear quartz and like other healing crystals and stuff like that. And I like it, and I like the fact that it's got a ring binder and that you like take out each section and sort of put it in. But I wouldn't have liked it if the cover was particularly stunning. Obviously the cover's enough to draw me in because I was interested by the cover, like, oh, what's that? But it's not like the best cover in the world, so I don't feel bad like taking it apart and putting it in a different thing, if that makes sense. But yeah, I'm really enjoying this. If you have any interest in like natural healing and stuff like that, maybe a little bit witchy, I guess, if you want to look at it that way, they've got like angel cards and stuff like that. So yeah, definitely check this out if that's your kind of thing. On to the actual books that I read that are going towards my Goodreads, because unfortunately I looked up the ISBN for this and it wasn't like recognised on Goodreads, so that doesn't go towards my goal. So the first book I finished in February is Wolf Brother by Michelle Paver. This is the first book in the Chronicles of Ancient Darkness. So I had a little bit of confusion when I was telling you guys about the synopsis of this in previous videos, but this is about a boy called Toruk, who he lives with his father in the woods, and they're part of the Wolf clan. However, they are kind of isolated. They've been away from humans for ages. Toruk has never lived with any other human aside from his father. And we're also following a young wolf cub at the same time, and how their paths meet and how their connection is with each other, like what it means for the story and that. So that's what it's about. That's the kind of general glaze over the plot that I want to give you. I gave this a 3.5 stars out of 5 stars, and as I mentioned in my Goodreads review, I didn't know really too much about this, as you could probably tell from previous videos of me trying to explain what it was about. But yeah, I didn't really know too much about it when I went into it, but I was shocked that so many people I knew had read this as a child, so I was like, oh wow, I never heard about this before. So it kind of made me a bit more excited to dive in and see what it was about. It's definitely not the best book in the world, like it's not like the most amazing thing I've ever read, but I found myself really enjoying it quite a lot, and oftentimes feeling really reeled in and excited to see what would happen next. From the beginning we are really thrown into the story with just kind of like, boom, this is happening, this is what's going on. In terms of events that happened quite early on in the story, I would have preferred if we had more of a relationship building between Toruk and his father, because then it would have made me feel a bit more emotion for things that happen later on, and like it would have made me care a bit more. Obviously you're given the emotion, you can tell that that's what's happening and that's what Toruk and his father are feeling, but I'm not actually seeing it firsthand, you know, I'm kind of getting it secondhand as a backlash, and that doesn't make me feel anything as a reader. So I think I would have preferred some maybe snippets of happier times or something like that just before all the shit went down, pretty much. I do go into a little bit more detail in my Goodreads review, so if you want to check that out, feel free. But basically we had a really kind of turn of events that I really did enjoy, and it kind of spiced up the story a bit more, but I didn't feel as much emotion as I felt like I should have had. I don't know why that was, maybe that was just a lack of connection there. Like I did feel a little bit heartbroken over certain events, but it didn't stay with me much longer after I'd closed the book, do you know what I mean? But overall I really did enjoy this book. It's a great middle grade read. I think if I had read this when I was much younger I would have really enjoyed this, because I just like wolves and animals mixed in kind of with young children, if that makes sense. That sounds really weird, kind of like the Jungle Book-esque sort of feel. I think I said that before. I definitely got that kind of vibe, but not to that severity, if that makes sense. It will definitely pull on your heartstrings. I would definitely recommend this, especially if you're a younger reader. Next up, I read something through NetGalley. It was the Backstagers issue 1 by James Tynion the 5th, I don't know Roman numerals, and Ryan Sig. I'm so sorry if I've pronounced those wrong. As I think I've already said, I got this through NetGalley, so it was a read for review sort of situation, but I've not paid for it. You guys know my opinion's not changed or anything like that. About a boy called Jory who moves to an all-boys private school, and he finds that he's not really fitting in. He's trying to find like a club to fill in the space between him going home and school, like finishing. And he stumbles upon the drama club. However, he's not like the star of the show. He ends up being backstage and seeing the adventures of what's going on behind the scenes. I've mentioned before that I find reviewing single issues quite difficult to do. I need like at least a volume to be able to give it a good review. However, this one was kind of easy to review. I give it a 4 out of 5 stars. The only really major downfall is that it was a little bit too fast paced for my taste. However, I know it's a graphic novel and they tend to be a bit quicker paced, especially because they've got very little or limited you know, speech and text, I guess. It was really funny, and I love that a lot of the characters were really flamboyant and larger than life. I just meshed with them really quickly, so I would be excited to see more from them in later issues if I do end up picking them up, or perhaps the complete volume when it's done. The art style was fantastic. It reminded me of Steven Universe, if any of you guys have watched that show. It comes on Cartoon Network if you're interested, and I just think that it went really well with the craziness and strangeness of the actual storyline. It was really quick obviously, but just generally I really enjoyed this. It's definitely something I would really continue on with, but I'd probably wait it out until a volume's released or something like that. I'm literally just going to skim over this next book, but you guys may have seen my review for Only Ever Yours by Louise O'Neill. I'm not going to talk about it, to be honest. I've got a full review if you guys want to see how I feel about that, so moving on. And another thing I'm not going to talk too much about because I think I want to do a series review of it, but that is Melissa de la Cruz's Return to the Isle of the Lost. I said that really weird. Isle of the Lost. There. You may recognise this because it is a Disney Descendants book. Perhaps you've seen the film The Descendants movie on Disney, which is what that's based off of this, and I've also talked about the first book, which is The Isle of the Lost, maybe last year or the year before, but it's a children's book, like a middle grade perhaps. I'm obviously not going to talk about the plot or the summary for this, but basically the first book we're following the children of the villains of Disney. They're basically domed in to keep all their evil out of the way and away from magic, so they can't wreak any more havoc on Auradon, I don't know how to pronounce it, which is the rest of the Disney kingdom sort of thing, with all the good people like Beauty and the Beast and Snow White and Sleeping Beauty, that kind of thing. And basically this book continues on from the events that happened in the first book, which obviously I can't talk about, but I'm pretty certain, pretty positive that I will be doing a series review. I think it might be 3 books, but I said that I thought it might be 2 books before, and then I realised they've definitely got a 3rd book. So I don't know, whenever that's finished, whenever I get to finish the series, I'll try and do a review. That was really, really rambly, I'm so sorry, but yeah, just in case you want to know, I gave that a 3 stars out of 5. I think the first book I gave a 3.5 stars, so that this one did lower its rating a little bit. I didn't enjoy it as much as the first book, but it was still really enjoyable. So that is my book haul and February wrap up. I really do hope you've enjoyed. Let me know what you've been reading during February and what books you've been picking up. If you've got any videos regarding any of the latter, feel free to link them in the comments, and yeah, I'll speak to you in another video soon. Bye.